Leader Adam Hasner is joining us now live today on WNDB. Mr. Leader, welcome back to WNDB. How are you, sir?
Great to be with you. How you doing?
I'm great. Adam, are you going to run for the United States Senate? I got to ask you that before we get into what's in front of us here with the budget thing. I've been hearing it for weeks from people who tell me that you're going to run. Are you going to do it, sir?
We're gonna make our announcement very soon. We're gonna make our decision very soon. Right now, we've been traveling the state. I've opened an exploratory committee at adamhasner.com. And we've just been getting so much positive encouragement because people are looking for those future leaders to be part of the 2012 wave. 2010 was just the beginning. 2012, it's time for reinforcements, and we need people up there who have the courage to say what needs to be said and do what needs to be done. And so we're very excited by all the positive support and encouragement we've been getting.
Adam, what's your assessment of what's going on in Washington right now today?
Well, I think there are those who want to demagogue this issue and say that a government shutdown is extreme. What's extreme is the fact that we have a $1.6 trillion debt. What's extreme is we have deficit, that we have a $14 trillion debt. And we need to make sure that we draw the line, because if we can't solve the problems, the small problems right now today, how are we ever going to be able to tackle the larger problems? And so I'm proud that we're holding the line, and that I'm confident that this is going to certainly start leading to the types of spending cuts that need to be made to get our budget back in balance, and more importantly, to get America's economy headed in the right direction.
You were a no-nonsense guy when you were House Leader in Tallahassee, and I expect no less if you're becoming United States Senator. Are there some areas that the federal government is in now, Adam, that they need to get out of, given what is now considered the new normal?
Well, I think some of the things that you see in the Paul Ryan budget proposal are a great start in terms of entitlement reform and entitlement spending. And I think everything needs to be on the table. In addition to Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, I know we can make some defense military spending reductions. But there are also areas, too, Department of Education, Department of Energy, and others. And the reality is, and goes back to what we're fighting about today, which is that if we can't agree to cut the small things like National Public Radio or Planned Parenthood, then how are we ever going to agree on the bigger issues of the day? And that's why we need tough leaders. That's why we need people who are ready to go up and fight to restore America's promise and turn our country around. And we cannot begin to turn America around until we take back control of the United States Senate, and that starts with taking out Bill Nelson in 2012's election.
As it relates to the budget issue, should the American service commitment, American military commitment, be in Libya, in your opinion?
Well, you have to start back to the fact that President Obama delayed. He did not provide leadership. He did not provide any clarity. He didn't consult Congress. And by not acting for several weeks, he really let the situation worsen, and then made a decision without congressional approval by actually going for UN and Arab League approval, which makes absolutely no sense in terms of America being the global leader. We're facing a president who thinks it's better for America to fit in with the rest of the world rather than to lead it. And so the fact that we have our brave men and women over there serving, I believe that we have to continue the process and enforce the objective, which is regime change.
Right.
And while I'm not sure anyone knows what is next, America can't back down now, because it will only further weaken us on the global stage. And this president has done everything possible to make America less safe, less trusted, and less respected because of his foreign policy doctrine to engage America's enemies and distance America from our allies. And that's been what has set America's foreign policy doctrine in the wrong direction.
I want to take advantage of this opportunity and talking with you to get your thoughts on energy. We're in a quandary in this country. Oil went up over $112 a barrel today. Looks like $4 a gallon gas in the next few weeks. Adam, you're elected to the United States Senate. Where are you going to come down on energy exploration? Would you be in favor of returning to offshore drilling in the Gulf, given the fact that the Cubans are probably going to do it? That's within striking distance of this country anyway. Are you okay with that, or are you against drilling in the Gulf?
That's been my belief all along. If you remember, when I served in the Florida legislature, the Florida House of Representatives passed a plan to make America more energy secure through using our own domestic resources. The Florida legislature had a plan to be able to drill offshore in the Gulf off of Florida. But I also support drilling in Anwar. I also support other types of technologies for extracting shale, the new shale technologies to extract oil and natural gas. And that's what we need to do. We are sending nearly $1 trillion a year overseas to countries that don't like us very much. And our foreign policy is being dictated by the fact that we are so dependent on these countries, and we can't act on the world stage because of our energy dependence and because we are borrowing trillions of dollars from countries that do not share our values and interests. And so energy policy is certainly a part of national security, but I would tie it back in to tell you that our $14-plus trillion national debt is also now our nation's greatest national security threat, and these issues are all connected together, and it's why we need to be more energy independent. My record in the legislature is exactly what it was, or is exactly the same thing as it was, even after some Republicans ran for the hills after it became less popular. I'm somebody who stands by the courage of my convictions, and sometimes we have to continue to believe in things and fight for things, even if it's not popular.
A sort of an ancillary topic that's attached to this is, we've got people in Congress and the Senate, Adam, who have pushed very much for ethanol production, but that also eats up a lot of corn, if you will, and that's going to drive corn prices up at a time in which we pay subsidies. Should this country be heavily engaged in ethanol production or not, in your opinion?
I believe we need to wean ourselves off of the subsidies and wean ourselves off of the tax financing support. But I do believe we need to find all different types of ways in a free market economy to become less dependent on foreign sources of oil. And I certainly understand the concerns that you raise. There are other ways to produce alternative fuels, and as long as they're not done in a way which eats into our crop yields and raises the price of food at the grocery store, those are the types of things that I hope in the future we're able to do more cost effectively. But the first thing we need to do is be able to have the types of offshore energy exploration for resources that are right off of our shores. You mentioned the fact that Cuba is going to be, or off the shores of Cuba, right off of Florida, will be looking for energy. But the reality is that we have a president who thinks that it's good policy to allow Brazil to have offshore drilling so that we can import more of their oil, when that's just actually not the facts. And so America needs a long-term energy policy, and that begins with more domestic resources.
When you were in the Florida House, you had the reputation as being one of the most conservative members there while leader, to the point where you caught a lot of criticism from Democrats. As a matter of fact, you criticized taking any stimulus money for the state of Florida. Was Governor Chris wrong to embrace the president in that regard?
Well, I think history has proven out to show that he was wrong. I fought hard against it. I was successful in opposing the $444 million of stimulus, which we ultimately didn't take. But, Mark, I just have to say here, it wasn't just Democrats who criticized me for being too principled and being too conservative. I was criticized by Republicans, including Charlie Crist and all of those who supported the Charlie Crist wing of the Republican Party, who said the best way to beat the Democrats is to join them. My philosophy then, even when it wasn't popular, is the same as it is today. Republicans don't need to be less partisan. We need to be more principled. And the 2010 election was the first wave. It was the beginning of sending principled leaders like Marco Rubio, like Alan West from my hometown down in Palm Beach to Washington. But we know now we don't have enough to get the job done. We can't get the country back on the right track until we take back the United States Senate. And that's why 2012 is so important in terms of getting back the majority in the Senate and also making Barack Obama a one-term president.
What would you do differently from the incumbent in terms of reducing our balance of payments deal with China? Our trade arrangement and more?
First and foremost, we have to cut the spending. We have to we have to balance the budget. I've been a leader on the balanced budget amendment. Last year in the state legislature, I led the effort calling for a balanced budget amendment to the United States Constitution. And then I joined Ken Blackwell, who many might know, a conservative from Ohio. And Ken and I have formed a citizen action group called Pass the Balanced Budget Amendment, passthebba.com. And that is calling on Congress to pass a balanced budget amendment to the U.S. Constitution. And while it may be popular for some to start supporting these types of initiatives now, we needed people supporting this back in the 1990s when we came up one vote short. And so a balanced budget amendment alone will not do the trick. We have to attack the debt with spending cuts and with spending caps that are tied directly to debt reduction, and those are the types of things that I think that we need to put in place. And it's certainly when you have a United States Senator from Florida in the name of Bill Nelson who supported the stimulus, which hasn't created jobs, who supported the bailouts, he supported Obamacare, and also supported cap and trade and card check. We know that it's time for a change in Washington, and we need somebody to join Marco Rubio in the United States Senate who is going to stand on principle even when it's not popular.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the border, because I know a lot of our listeners want to know where you stand on this. What would you do differently? Janet Napolitano tried to pass this panacea story the other day, Adam, saying that basically no problem, that we're able to stop illegal drugs from coming into this country. Our border is more secure. What's your take, and what would you do differently?
Well, my message is the same whether I'm in South Florida or North Florida or anywhere else for that matter, is that I don't support amnesty in any way, shape, or form. And I would tell you that we have to protect and secure those borders. And I'm not sure how you can reach the conclusion that the borders are secure and that everything is fine. We just recently had the instance of border agents being murdered. We also have documented instances of foreign terrorists and Hezbollah operatives coming across our border, and we just don't know who's in our country, and that just demonstrates to me that whatever we're doing now needs to change. And it's not just Democrats, and I don't just put the blame on Democrats, but we have Republicans who have not addressed this issue seriously, and I think it's going to take tremendous leadership from a new president as well as from the Congress in order to put the resources that are necessary to secure our borders from an economic perspective as well as from a national security and public safety perspective.
Do you think we should put troops at the southern border?
I don't know if we've reached that point just yet, and I do intend to have the opportunity to go down to Texas and California and Arizona later this year and get to see it again firsthand. I would not call for that just yet, but I certainly wouldn't take that option off the table if there continues to be a rise or an escalation in those types of activities down there.
Okay. I'll say this in closing. Good luck in whatever your decision is, Adam, on this. If you decide that you're going to run, the next time you're in our neck of the woods, you got a place to come and be on the air and take calls. Plus, on the campaign trail, we do something at Embry-Riddle, where I also work, called the President Speaker Series, where we showcase candidates such as yourself to the students and the general public to take questions in a moderated format by me on the campaign. So you'll have an opportunity to meet people here if you're up in our neck of the woods.
We'd love to do that. If people are looking for a strong conservative voice, they can go to adamhasner.com or follow me on Facebook or Twitter at Adam Hasner. And I certainly appreciate the invitation and look forward to taking you up on it.
Good luck, Adam. Thanks for being with us today, Mr.
Thanks for what you do, Mark.
Bye-bye. Dorothy Huckel.